The saga between Kevin Durant and CJ McCollum reached a crescendo this last week. Forget about their on-court battles. Instead, the attention was on a discussion the two NBA stars had during McCollum's podcast, during which the Portland Trail Blazers guard talked about Durant joining the Warriors. Durant threw shade at McCollum, mentioning that he would be a sixth man on a championship team. The conversation continued on Twitter after media outlets picked up the podcast discussion, and Durant called the Blazers star a snake. People gave their takes on the discussion over the course of the week, and media even decided to ask Durant about it directly. The Warriors forward came off a tad defensive, and to be completely honest, wholly unbelievable, and perhaps we thought that was going to be the end of that. But it's the summer, and it's the time of the year to ask NBA players about the goings-on around them. As such, radio host Dan Patrick asked Dallas Mavericks star Dirk Nowitzki what he thought about Durant and his penchant for scrapping online. Here is what Dirk had to say, via NBC Sports Bay Area. "I don't follow him on Twitter, but obviously it's tough not to see what's going on," Dirk said on the Dan Patrick Show on Friday morning. "I just think overall and in general, I don't know why you would get engaged with fans talking trash. I like having fun with it. I get hit up on Twitter every now and then in my mentions. Hey, you're old, go away, retire, or something like that. To me, it's fun. You're not supposed to be sensitive about it. That's how I look at it. I'm not sure why KD feels the need to respond to some of the stuff, because, I mean, Twitter is just such a place for tough guys and a lot of hate. I take it with a smile on my face. You can't take yourself too serious on there. There is no way for Durant to log off at this point. He is too deep, and apparently so concerned with haters online that he once had a burner account. Smart business management would take social media away from him completely, and pay someone $80,000 to follow him around at all times to be his social media person. It doesn't seem like Durant is going to do that, and so we'll probably still get the kind of content we expect from him moving forward. Nowitzki seems to like it, and so do we. Keep on subtweeting, Kev. Do you have burning NBA questions you want answered? Submit your questions to Pro Basketball Talk for our mailbag. Email us at pbtmailbag@gmail.com to get your question featured right here on PBT. Carmelo Anthony has always been on the forefront of social justice in the NBA. The former Oklahoma City Thunder forward has walked with protesters in Baltimore, been a positive force while leading the community in discussion, and taken center stage with LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade in speaking out against police brutality. And although Anthony doesn't have a team just yet, he's still expected to sign with the Houston Rockets. That doesn't mean that he is taking the summer off from being a voice for justice in the association. Anthony recently went on CNN and spoke about the disaster relief effort happening in Puerto Rico. During the interview, Anthony said that he felt as though the mainland government in the United States had not done its part to help Puerto Ricans, who are U.S. citizens. Via CNN, "We send, airplanes down there with supplies," he said. "We had to supply stuff at the port. We couldn't get in. We had to make calls and it was just a lot. It was just sad that we had to go through that in order to help people," he told Jones. "Puerto Rico is part of this country and I just felt like the government completely turned their back, to their island," Anthony added. Anthony has made his voice known regarding Puerto Rico and Hurricane Maria before. In 2017, Anthony wrote a piece on the Players Tribune that was accompanied by a video asking for people to help. Anthony's father is Puerto Rican, and he has done a significant amount of fundraising to help the devastated island nation. Carmelo set up a donation page that has nearly amassed $500,000 in charitable gifts from the public. Anything about the Rockets, or whether or not Carmelo is still a useful basketball player, doesn't really apply in this scenario. The fact is, Anthony is still making his voice heard and using the platform he has as an NBA player to help ease the suffering of others. That's the right move. Do you have burning NBA questions you want answered? Submit your questions to Pro Basketball Talk for our mailbag. Email us at pbtmailbag@gmail.com to get your question featured right here on PBT. We know how Milwaukee Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo has been spending his summer. At least, we thought we did. We were led to believe that Antetokounmpo was mostly spending his time eating America's worst junk foods. The 23-year-old product from Greece has tried corn dogs, Kool-Aid, and Funyuns. However, Antetokounmpo has also been hitting the gym, as was apparent in a recent Instagram post to his feed. Those of us who have been watching Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee over the past couple of years have noticed him getting bigger, but this kind of size is exactly what we were hoping he would grow into when he entered the league at age 19. Via Instagram, for comparison, here is a photo of Antetokounmpo during his rookie year with the Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks v Portland Trailblazers Muscle Watch is one of the more hilarious things we do during the summer, as we all clamor for NBA content during the hottest months of the year. Dudes get bigger as they age from their teenage years to their mid-20s. That's just biology. Still, Antetokounmpo is poised to be one of the best players in the Eastern Conference now that LeBron James has left for the Los Angeles Lakers. The ability to continue to use strength to move guys out of the way, in addition to his length and skill, has impact on his on-floor performance. It's at least worth checking out. Meanwhile, I've lost 7 pounds this month. The point is, everybody out here is grinding this summer. Do you have burning NBA questions you want answered? Submit your questions to Pro Basketball Talk for our mailbag. Email us at pbtmailbag@gmail.com to get your question featured right here on PBT. The public perception of Kawhi Leonard has always been that he was extremely quiet, even timid, speaking mostly through his actions on the basketball court. That's probably never been fair, but we have only added to our public construction of his persona via his odd saga with the San Antonio Spurs. A quiet, moody player influenced by his handlers to an extent where he would be willing to leave the best franchise in the NBA has perhaps not sat well with many fans. But people take what information they can get, which is perhaps why the most recent story about Leonard and his personality will continue to inform our opinion of him. Leonard is now a member of the Toronto Raptors, and eventually we were going to have to hear about him sitting down with members of their staff other than general manager Masai Ujiri. Leonard reportedly recently did just that, talking with new Raptors coach Nick Nurse. According to Nurse, it went very well. In a recently published feature in the Toronto Star, Nurse said that he and Leonard talked for a significant period of time, excitedly chatting about diagrams, Leonard's role on the team, and what would be to come during the 2018-2019 NBA season. Via the Star, Shirley, as the basketball talk with Leonard went on for some 45 minutes, and Leonard, in Nurse's words, lit up like a Christmas tree, at one point rising to join Nurse diagramming schemes on the whiteboard. Nurse must have been breathing a sigh of relief. The incommunicative enigma who somehow had a falling out with the gold standard franchise in San Antonio wasn't some petulant nightmare. Instead, he sounded very much like a typical NBA player concerned about how he'll fit with his new team, not to mention an elite NBA player deeply hooked on the game's intricacies. We could have gone forever. Raptors management kept knocking on the door and I was like, a couple more minutes, because we were really into it, Nurse said. It was fun to listen to his take. He asked me, how are you going to use me? Where are you going to get me the ball? What do you see? And I told him, listen. To me, you can do pretty much everything. You can post. You can drive. You can handle it up the floor. You can play screen and roll. You can come off pin downs. I said, did I miss anything? He's like, no, that's about it. I said, you'll probably be doing all that stuff. Whether or not Leonard decides to play in Toronto still seems to be a question of concern for some fans. His reported interest in playing in Los Angeles has never been refuted, although there have been rumors that people close to Leonard believe that he could come to love Toronto over time. Indeed, Toronto is a world-class city and no doubt a great place to live as well as play basketball. If things go well for the Raptors this season in the Eastern Conference, you really can't count out the idea of Leonard staying in Canada after this year. Then again, Toronto has positioned itself to be able to do a rebuild quickly if Leonard decides to leave. Anything is possible. I still just want to see him on a basketball floor for the Raptors before I make any judgments one way or the other. The rough slog of summer will make the wait for that moment even harder. Do you have burning NBA questions you want answered? Submit your questions to Pro Basketball Talk for our mailbag. Email us at pbtmailbag@gmail.com to get your question featured right here on PBT. The Clippers hired Doc Rivers in 2013 as Senior Vice President of Basketball Operations and Head Coach. In 2014, they promoted him to President of Basketball Operations and Head Coach. They demoted him last year. Rivers, via Steve Bulpett of the Boston Herald, "I'm still doing basically the same stuff," Rivers said. "It's interesting. I don't think my role has changed since I've been there. I first came, I was just the coach, but I was involved in every decision. Then I was the president, and I was involved in every decision. Now I'm the coach, and whatever other title I have another title, but I don't even know what that is, but I'm still involved in every decision, so it really hasn't changed much. My workload has changed some though. It's less now, and that's good. Before this last title change, I was hiring different people so I didn't have to do everything, and that was the intent. Maybe Rivers was less involved before than we thought. Maybe he's more involved more now than we thought. My theory, he's just trying to downplay his demotion. But the Clippers' front office power structure is mysterious. Lawrence Frank holds the highest title as President of Basketball Operations. But the longtime coach is relatively new to front office work. Jerry West, who had great success running the Lakers and Grizzlies, is a consultant paid more than many top decision-makers. But he's also 80 and might not be as involved in the day-to-day work as he was in his executive heyday. Rivers remains head coach, his only title in the Clippers staff directory. He built enough cash to get front office power before, and though the Clippers formerly stripped him of that, maybe he still has a voice in roster construction. And then there's owner Steve Ballmer, whose enthusiasm tends to lead to involvement. He obviously doesn't possess the basketball mind of Frank, West and Rivers, though. How do they collaborate? Who holds most influence? Whose preference sticks when they disagree? Rivers' comments only add another wrinkle to a difficult-to-read situation.